congratulations for the Devil Conspiracy.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it was a fun one.
I know this is probably way different from a lot of the projects that you've done before. So, what initially drew you to something like this?
I got sent the script, and with the offer to say, do you want to play the devil? And of course, the kid in me went, yeah, immediately, of course, I want to play. And then I read the script, and then went, wow, this is an awesome premise. The idea of science, and religion coming together, genetics. I went, this is kind of where we are now, almost, that we're finding out all sorts of things. We've got the Hadron Collider, we've got all sorts of spooky stuff going on over there. So I just thought it was a great premise to pull from both sides of that aisle, of the theological side and the science. I just, wow, I hadn't seen that before. And I certainly hadn't read anything that moved at the pace that this did. And also, the film is the Devil Conspiracy, but really, it is the beginning of him being the devil. He is fresh, he's literally just been cast out of heaven. So there was no sort of human affectation. This is not a guy that's walking around New York causing havoc. He's right there in hell. So it was a very fresh sort of archetypal way of looking at it. So yeah, I was immediately on board and said, yeah, let's do it.
I know there's always something about playing the devil that is enjoyable for actors like yourself, isn't it?
It is, and again with this character that I had, reading black and white, you're sitting wherever you are, reading the script, and you start to come up with these ideas, and you start to build a character. And then I got to Prague, and then I saw the visual concepts for what Lucifer was going to look like. And suddenly this whole character that I developed just wouldn't fit with that look. So I suddenly had to chuck everything out the window that I devised and almost build to the skeleton of this structure, which of this guy. So it was a very sort of, it was a little scary, to be honest, because you feel like you're winging it, but you're not, because you're only stepping up to the framework, really, which has been laid down, and it was quite precise as well. So, and not only that, there's no long scenes with him, long dialogue scenes where you get a sense of who he is through the dialogue. It's very much that physical kind of William Blake painting kind of way of looking at him. So it would just be nice if Peter Menzer wasn't so tall, so I wasn't staring up at him for the whole shoot with his metal collar on, wondering why I've got a bruised Adam's apple in the morning, going, oh, why is that? Oh, it's because Peter's so tall, that's why. So,
Well, he was an impressive Michael.
Very sweet, tall, but very, very sweet. Yeah, he was good.
Well, one of the things about Lucifer in this film is he comes in, I want to say two different versions. One is the physical and the other one is the voice. Talk about approaching Lucifer in both aspects.
Well, the interesting thing was playing prior to, we only shot for 3 days in hell. I mean, it was very quick, 3 or 4 days. And so that work that I talked about, the sort of pre-game character development, a lot was to do with the voice and how this guy was going to sound, until you get to set and you suddenly realize there's huge fans, like big fan wind machines, so Peter and I couldn't hear each other. I couldn't hear myself. So suddenly that all that work sort of, you go, well, this is going to have to be done ADR. It's going to have to be done in post-production. So with that, you then suddenly go, oh, okay, this is something that I don't have to strain with now, I can play this for the physicality. And then when we get into post-production, then we can really find it and fine tune it. And there was a voice in The Exorcist 3. And it was I don't know, that there was a lady, it was a woman's voice in The Exorcist 3. And if you've ever seen it, it's the moment where they're in the confession booth, and there's whoever that woman's voice was. And it was that was the voice that I started to sort of play with. And so it just went from there and developed from there. But I suppose the post-production stuff was far more silky. And far more slimy, to do with, without giving it away, what was making the noise. But Lucifer himself in hell was just pretty much straight up very angry.
Hey, tell us about, did you have to don that costume for your scenes? I mean, that must have took a while.
It did, and it was Millennium Effects. They were fantastic, and they're based just outside here. If I remember, in London, I went for a fitting, and they cast my head and I think a few other bits of my body, but I can't remember if it was 3 or 4 pieces. But even that halo that went up around, which was, I thought that design was fascinating, because I'd never seen it be actually physically part of the being. And so, and it's always interesting when you have things stuck to your head, because it has weight and it moves. And so you wouldn't believe, the stuff, the glue and the hair nets and the thing that goes on underneath to keep that upright. And so it was quite a job, but those guys were amazing. And suddenly you're in it, and then you have to move, and then it dictates how you move, because you can't just, get up and just get up out of your throne like you're going to go and get a cup of coffee. You have to move in a certain way, and so it helps. And the two sort of come together as you really, from the first time you get it on, walking from the trailer to set, you sort of get into it. And so that's that.
Was that I want to say the headgear for the halo, was that a little bit heavy? I mean,
it was, but it was, but where it sat, it was sort of in a, it was in the sort of fulcrum, it was right in the balance. I think Peter had more of a hard time, because he had to do some movement or something, and he also, because they had to stick it to his head with no hair, he couldn't have special things to attach it to. So I think his was a little more tricky. But then he didn't have to sit there for 4 or 5 hours or whatever it was and get all the burns all over him. So he got away with it easy.
Well, I could tell the maneuverability was difficult in its own way, but at least it didn't distract Peter from grabbing your atoms out.
Yeah, I know, and dragging me. I mean, he did. There's a moment where he drags me by the neck, and we actually did it, and I held, but I went, wow, he's strong. I'm a skinny guy, but he pulled me like I was nothing. So he was great though, sweet guy.
Yeah, I've only seen Peter once in real life, and I do agree. He's a pretty tall guy,
and just a stunning man. Just a great face on him, and we had a lot of fun. But also we were playing scenes that half the time we couldn't even hear each other because of all the wind effects and what have you. So we're looking at each other's lips, waiting for the other one to stop, because we just couldn't hear.
Now, for that scene, what was it? All CGI? Did they build a set, or is just completely all CGI?
No, that was a quarry in Prague. It was a limestone quarry, and I remember Nathan, the director, very excitedly coming up to me and saying, base camp was sort of just around the corner from the quarry, so you couldn't see into it. And he said, we've made hell blue. So what? You made hell blue? And I remember I walked down and I saw this this, I mean, it was almost a 360 set, but it wasn't a set. It was a limestone quarry that they lit, and they had the throne and these, I mean, it was just fantastic. So there was no green screen, no blue screen for me at all. It was, which was great, because it would really suck, to be honest, to have all that gear on and you don't have any feedback. So at least I could look around and be in my world. And also the fact that it was, you know, it wasn't the archetypal red hell, you know, burning, you know, it was cool. It had a very cool look to it. So
it's
nice.
it's a terrific scene. And for a film like this, what, you know, in your opinion, what is the obsession of our obsession of devils and angels after, you know, all these centuries?
It's interesting in that, you know, it's something that I have an interest, aside from, you know, making movies and acting and what have you, in a lot of mythology and what is myth and what is not myth, really, and what we're finding out is true, and through science. Now, so for me, there was that aspect, but then I think that the pure idea of the sort of yin yang, why is there positive and negative for, you know, pure, what is that summing up? One can't be without the other, but yet, you know, it sucks to have one, to have the negative. It's not nice, you know. So, but and we have it within us, and I think that we have the devil, and we have whoever, the light, in us, and I think that we you know, we all recognize that, and I think, like any good theater or movie, it's an escapism, but it's also, sometimes you watch things that you can't do in public. You can't go and do a bank heist today, you know, but I can watch a movie where they go and do a bank heist. So I think, you know, there's a little bit of a cathartic quality to watching these things, because it's the same questions that we have, just played out in front of us. So I think it's just quite nice to know that we're not alone, that other people get it as well.
Most excellent. And one more thing before I leave you, because you did a very memorable scene with Across the Universe with singing "Hey Jude."
Right.
Yeah, and that was long ago. Do people still bring that up to you after all?
Every interview. every interview. But it's not a bad one to bring, you know, it's not a bad one to bring up. It was, and it was a baptism of fire for me. It was like my third job ever. And you know, I was young and in New York and singing, you know, doing the whole thing. It was just a buzz, but it's the people that saw it when they were sort of 11 years old, who are now grown up, you know, and they'll come up to me and they've got their phones and they've got their Hey Jude on the phone. That was quite cool. It's quite nice. It's strange performing somebody else's music, because I did a film called Control about Joy Division, and you end up having a weird feeling of not ownership, but because you've physically gone through it. Even if you hear the original Beatles version, you're like, oh, that's my song. It's not your song at all, but you know, so you feel a kinship with it, which is quite strange.
Well, that serves a lot of people's memories, and you're part of that. So thank you.
Thanks, man.
Much. And Joe, thank you for speaking to us about the Devil Conspiracy. Can't wait to do this again with you.
Thank you. Speak soon. Take care, buddy.
You too. Bye.
Bye.